iawn i say. Thank you for getting us going, for firing us up, because climate change is a matter of injustice and inequality and deepening injustice and deepening inequality. Mae'r gap rhwng clawd a chyfoethog yn tyfu bob dydd. A mae newid hinsawdd yn rhan anatod o'r broblem yna ac o'r alwad arno ni i fod yn sefyll yma ac yn gwneud sŵn praw ma. A mae eisiau gwneud digon o sŵn fel bod pawb, y cyngorwyr tre fel fi, cyngorwyr sir sydd yma, bobl y Senedd yng Nghaerdydd, ac yn uwch fyth i bobl Senedd Llundain, achos maen nhw'n fyddar fatha pys ac yn dwp fatha blanks. Ond yn rhy gyfoethog o beth coblyn i fod ots gennyn nhw. Mae o'n hawdd iawn colli gobaith yn dydi o. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and too small to make a difference. Back in September, I was out in Germany with the World Council of Churches, and churches from every country of the world were talking about climate change. And I was talking with the churches of Europe about climate change, and our discussion was all theoretical and hypothetical and frustrated that leaders aren't listening to us. And then hearing churches from Africa and from the Middle East and from Asia and from the Caribbean and from the South Pacific yn siarad o brofiad go iawn ynglyn â beth i newid hinsawdd. People in the South Pacific Islands being forced to leave their islands because of rising sea levels. People in Africa, as we've heard, facing droughts and having to migrate. And what do we do with the migrants? Except treat them despicably in this country. Mae o'n gywir lwbus y ffordd mae'n llywodraeth ni yn siarad am fewnfudwyr a midwyr pan da ni'n gymaint yn rhan o broblem. Mae'n bywyda ni yma'n gymaint rhan o broblem mudo rhyngwladol. Nid yn unig drwy bod ni'n bomio bobl, ond bod ni'n newid hinsawdd mewn gwledydd sydd yn lle mae bobl yn gorfod gadael I tiroedd. A mae rhaid I ni fod yn rhan o'r ateb I hynny. Our next speaker is Sam Ward. Sam used to specialise in taking people outdoors, particularly on rivers, even coaching the British national team, whoever that is actually. I don't identify with the British national team, but that's my problem, perhaps, not anybody else's. But the British national team, whoever they are, won over 30 medals at international competitions dan arweiniad Sam. So llongyfarchiadau Sam am hynny. He's also been involved in social enterprises and environmental advocacy. As the climate and nature emergencies become more central in his work, he's worked as a sustainability consultant, and he's co-founded the Biodiversity Alliance, Elisen, a charity in Uganda. So Sam is going to give us some hope. He's going to tell us what campaigning we can do, and he's going to fill us with an oomph to do something, gobeithio. Sam, lle wyt ti? And hopefully we'll all win medals afterwards too. Diolch.
Izzy's tall, but I'm taller. How do we do this? I'm not quite sure how to follow all that. I mean, what a stage I've been set. So thank you everyone. Diolch yn fawr. Dwi'n mynd I siarad yn Saesneg. I hope that's everyone okay with everyone. So following on from Grace and Izzy, Grace especially talked about the global issue of injustice. There is real issues that Izzy talked about, which is local community injustice. And within Wales, within the UK, it is also not affecting us all equally. So the richest 1% emit 26 times the average person. A billionaire, 1 million times the average person. That's absolutely wild. You know, this doesn't land equally with all of us. Likewise, with the costs, the effects of climate change in Wales, It's not the top percent that has to sit next to an open cast coal mine in Merthyr Tydfil, or, you know, who's getting refused house insurance on their house because their house has been flooded by however many times. It's not affecting us all equally as well. So I got an old. I enjoyed my old bio now, but now I'm working for an organisation called Climate Cymru, and we are collecting voices and representing voices from all over Wales at national level with governments, and really calling for the change that needs to happen, and making sure that that change not only is urgent and at the scale and pace that it needs to be, but also fair and representing the voices of communities and the people that will be affected most. So that is central to what the work we're doing. Right now we're in the thick of a cost of living crisis, as we all know. It's affecting everyone, and it's really important that we don't lose sight of the fact that this cost of living crisis is connected with the energy crisis. It's connected with the fossil fuels. It's connected with the climate crisis. Those fossil fuels is a shared cause of all of those things. It's driving all of those things forwards. It's pushing our prices up. And there are also other shared causes like greed. Greed is a... Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Greed is undermining so much of what we could be having in our society. So this sort of sense of profit for the few off the backs of the many, it's true of the climate crisis, it's true of the cost of living crisis, it's definitely true of the energy crisis. And enough of that, you know, enough of that already. We've got to do better. And so Climate Cymru is helping to coordinate. Sometimes we're better, well, often we are better working together. So there is amazing things going on around Wales, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But sometimes we all need to work together on things, and Cynnes Gaeaf, or Warm This Winter, is a campaign where we're bringing together voices, organisations from all over Wales to push back on that, on those destructive narratives, push back on the greed, and push back on this sort of the destruction of our collective future. So Climate Cymru, this is not a niche issue, by the way. Sometimes it's framed like that. Climate action has amazing support across the population, across political spectrum. Over 70% of people actually want bold climate action across the UK. And you know, it goes higher than that when it talks to renewable energy, and especially when you talk about community energy. So this is not a niche issue. There's hundreds of you here today, but there are thousands of us who want this, you know, want change to happen. So, cost of living, energy, climate, they all come together in this quite a destructive kind of mess, but we've got to make sure that the solutions also, happily, are shared. So, renewable energy, for example, is now 9 times cheaper than fossil fuel energy. 9 times cheaper. And if you build community energy, like some of our partners that are here today, building community energy keeps the profit within the communities. The communities benefit and get to choose what happens to that money. Now, contradict with that what's happening with fossil fuels right now. £170 billion of profit will be made over the next 2 years by the energy companies. And those are big international energy companies, not Welsh-owned organisations. Those are international-owned organisations in drilling in the North Sea at the behest of, with permission from our, in fact, encouraged by our UK government, who are claiming also to be climate leaders. They're issuing hundreds of licences in the North Sea now. That is not compatible with our future, and it is almost criminal not to tax that in a meaningful way. Not only are the Conservative government at a UK level not taxing that with a big windfall tax, which is just obvious, they're not doing anything extra than what they do, the price is rocketed, but they need to tax that, and that could be going to communities around that. But instead of that, Equinor is a Norwegian government majority-owned oil and gas company. They're getting a £500 million subsidy from the UK government to drill a new oil and gas field in the North Sea. How crazy and unjust is that? That money could be going to communities, we could be insulating our homes, we could be supporting people through the cost of living crisis. Chinese government, Iranian government, all sorts of governments around the world have vested interests in the North Sea and own stakes in these companies that our government is refusing to tax. It's just not good enough.
No.
We should also talk a little bit. There is two governments we are governed by, and it is a bit night and day. We work daily with politicians. We work with UK level and Welsh government, and I have to say that there are politicians within Welsh government that really care about these issues, and we should acknowledge that sometimes. And we are working productively with them to make the change happen that we need to make happen. And there is hundreds of organisations involved in Climate Cymru, so this is another way of demonstrating actually the collective drive for this. This campaign is not just a niche thing. We have universities and unions and big businesses, small businesses, institutions, community groups, social enterprises, schools, 300 organisations representing probably more than 500,000 people collectively in those networks. That is a collective, broad call for change, and we welcome, by the way, anyone else joining that mass call for change. It's free to get involved, and it adds that sort of weight and pressure. And Welsh Government feel that when they have that weight of call to action, they recognise that there is a collective will for this, that they won't get burnt at the altar if they act. So it is important that we get out on the streets, like you've all done today. So thank you for spending time today. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you, Izzy, for getting out and spending some time on your Saturday. But recognise that it's not just you. We are not alone here. Most people in this country want the sort of changes we're talking about. And it's coming. Change is coming, whether we like it or not. And just to come back to the Welsh Government thing, really exciting. Some changes are happening, and I think, just because it is a bit hopeless sometimes. So some of the things we've been calling for have been adopted. They're listening. We have adopted a number of things from the people of Wales into policy. They've just announced Ynni Cymru, which is Energy Wales, which is which is one of our key demands for Warm this winter, which is a mechanism at a national level to build renewable energy as quickly as possible and make sure that profits go back to the Welsh people. So that is really exciting. We have to applaud that, and we have to get behind it, and we have to make sure it happens properly and with the consent and the sort of involvement of the wider Welsh population. So I believe really in our collective capacity for change. I think there is such a difference between the future we are careering towards and what the UK Conservatives would like us to go to. It's almost destruction of the fabric of what really makes everything that the society we live in great, versus the potential that we could build. It's not just about holding on to what is actually quite a hard time right now for everyone. It's also about building a better future. Gwyrddni is going to talk a bit in a minute, but they are doing amazing work in our communities locally here to build a better future for the immediate local communities. Community energy, I already mentioned, ploughs the profits back into communities. Also, stronger, more resilient communities, shared stuff, a thriving natural world around us. Like, all of these things are within our grasp, and honestly, I think we should just crack up. We're calling for change, but we also need to not wait for governments. We need to get on with this stuff ourselves and build the community that we really want to live in. So there is this better future, and then there is this possible future that we are careering towards. That is the future. I have a 4-year-old son, and it becomes a lot more real for those when you have children, to imagine the world that they're going to be living in 80 years' time, or what is the future in 50 years' time. Let us build the future that we want. Let us build the future that we really need for the future generations. And I'm excited for what we can do as a collective. There are amazing organisations here today. So Climate Cymru is here as a national programme that we can get involved with. There is North Wales Africa Society doing great work in Bangor. There is Extinction Rebellion Bangor as well, Friends of the Earth. There is Christian Aid. There is loads of amazing organisations, and Gwyrddni, which we're about to get to, and they're all here. And there is something. I felt like I was alone before I really got going. About 10 years ago, when I really got going on campaign, I felt like I was all alone. And then I started joining groups and getting involved, and I realised we're not alone at all. Most people actually are supportive of this stuff. There is something really cathartic and powerful about getting together with other people. These groups are here. It's made of local people building the future we want. So I really encourage right here afterwards for the next half hour or hour. Anyone who wants to find out more, we'll all be there and ready to chat. And you can sign up, get involved, and let's build the future we would rather see, rather than the future our leaders are trying to career us towards. Thank you very much.
Yay.